Hello, my name is Konstantin, and this is Brainstorm Interviews. Today we have a very special guest. He was a teacher at IBS. Now he is teaching at ICM and at IFM. Students say that his collection of ties is infinite. Please welcome Mark Kierans.
Thank you very much, Konstantin.
Thank you for coming. Firstly, I would like to start by asking you, what do you think about this statement of the students that they see you in with lots and lots of ties, different ties. I heard some people said you had a Mickey Mouse tie. Somebody else said that you had a Canadian tie.
No, that's correct. I do have a collection of what I call novelty ties, as well as standard ties, and I use them as a prop or a device to get people interested in what I'm going to talk about. So yesterday I was giving a talk on Canada and some of the issues about Canada, so I wore my Canadian tie. Earlier on in the day I was doing something more about international business, so I wore a different tie that had flags from around the world and these kinds of things. And occasionally I put on the Mickey Mouse tie. Again, it's a way of people going, that's a little bit different. So it's a way of attracting attention, shall we say.
Very good. I will start with the question that I'm asking every guest of ours. And why did you become a teacher?
Partially by design and partially by accident. During my professional career as a manager in various capacities, one of the things that I realized that I enjoyed doing was actually managing staff and training staff. In terms of by accident, I was working in the Dutch Caribbean on the island of Bonaire in a resort, and part of my responsibilities as the director of operation was to manage the students that were coming to the resort for placement. As a result of that, I got to know some of the placement teachers from the Hansa University as well as other universities. They seemed to think that my approach in managing the trainees that were there seemed to fit with the kind of education that they were offering, which was an education of applied sciences.
Oh.
And so they offered me a position here in the Netherlands to help support the development process and the delivery of the program at that time.
Great, good, interesting. My question relates to the beginning of the interview again. What do you think students are talking about you?
I probably teach or come into contact with 500 or 600 students every academic year, so I would imagine that the range of comments would be quite big. I think that generally speaking, students find me interesting, perhaps a little bit different than some of the other lecturers here.
Do you consider yourself cool? A cool teacher?
Probably not as cool as other students think I am. But I certainly try to remember that there are issues with students that are different than me, and I try to be aware of them. In other words, what is of interest of them, and I try to use that in the classroom as a way of engaging them. So talking about something that they might be interested in. If that's considered cool, then yes, perhaps,
cool.
Perhaps it is.
But did you ever hear rumors about yourself? Like, well, just walking down the corridor?
Constantly, and I swear to God I have an alibi. Okay. Yes, of course you hear things about yourself from students. Sometimes you hear it and you don't react to it. You just let it, sit there. I take very seriously any direct comment that a student might have about my professional capabilities here at the university. I always enjoy students telling me what I'm doing good. I really like it when they tell me what I'm not doing very well so that I can improve upon that. So I enjoy hearing student feedback that's professional and that's based on the experiences that we've had together. There's no problem there.
Okay, we'll move on to discovering how was your childhood and where did you spend it?
I had, I think, a good childhood, very difficult in some ways. My parents moved probably about 10 or 15 times while I was growing up. Fortunately, I found them every time they moved, so that was really good. I had, I think, a very good family. I come from a large family of 6 children, five brothers and sisters. I also grew up in a family that valued multiculturalism, that valued travel and learning about other cultures. I was fortunate enough to come to Europe for the first time when I was about 11 years old. And I think at that time I kind of knew I wanted to live here. There was just something about the sights and sounds and smells of Europe that I found quite engaging. I consider myself and my primary years to be, I was very fortunate.
Yeah. You did mention that you have done several studies in management and also in didactics. Students are curious to know, how were you as a student?
The good news for students is I was worse than they were.
Oh, interesting.
That's right.
In what dimension?
Well, all of the excuses that they use for not doing what they should be doing, I used first.
Okay.
So I know most of the excuses that they're going to use, and that's kind of bad news for them a little bit.
Good. Let's get to your hobbies.
Yeah.
Do you have any weird hobbies? What do you do besides teaching?
What do I do? Nothing. I go home and I just think about tomorrow and, you know,
Teaching
when
again.
I can get back into school. Yeah, of course, I have some hobbies. I'm a bit of a foodie.
Oh.
I enjoy cooking. I do the bulk of the cooking in my family, and I enjoy doing that. I'm kind of into food porn as well. I like looking at cooking magazines and going to cooking websites, and I like looking at recipes.
Do you have a database of recipes?
I do, as a matter of fact.
How big is it?
I probably have about 70 or 75 recipes in it now, from a variety of sources. Online, sometimes I see a book and I take a picture of it with my smartphone and I dump it somewhere. And I have certain go-to recipes that apparently my family seems to like, quite a bit. Yeah, I experiment also, but I just find time in the kitchen after a long day with students that can really, after a wonderful day with students where it's so stimulating and dynamic, that I enjoy being in the kitchen for therapeutic reasons.
Oh, okay.
It's a way that I can take a carrot and I can go whack, 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 and pretend there are now 30 students in front of me. And then no, I would never do that.
Do you think students do the same when they cook about you?
Oh, absolutely. There is a picture of me in some student's room somewhere where they're throwing darts into it right now. What a frickin' sucker frackin'.
How does it make you feel?
There's an expression from French loosely translated into English that says, speak good of me or speak ill of me, but speak of me.
Oh, okay.
So, in a sense. Now, I would hope that most students find it somewhat positive to have an experience with me, but of course, that's personal from their point of view, so you have to ask them.
Okay. Now we're getting to the part that everybody's waiting for, your presentation skills. I bet you know that you're very popular in the school for your unique presentations.
Okay.
And with our questions, we'll try to find out some of your secrets. Firstly, I want to ask, do you plan your presentations, and do you plan the jokes specifically?
The first part of that question, yes, I do plan my presentations.
Yeah.
So I do what every good communication student should do, an audience audit. So who are you speaking to? Why are they there? What is the purpose of the presentation? Is it to persuade somebody, to inform somebody? So I think about these things when I construct a presentation.
You're always patient to your audience, to the students, as how they react to the information and the presentation.
Yes. Now, I take into account that perhaps not all of the students have read material before they've come into class. So I realize that there may be one or two students in class that are a bit more confused than some of the other students in class.
Would you mind naming a proportion or so?
No, it varies on class. It varies on academic year. It varies on personality. It varies on national background. It appears that some cultures seem to think it's like really important to prepare before class. In other cultures, it's, yeah, well, 5.5 to stay alive. Thank you. So, no, I try to be very careful about generalizing about populations of people, but I do rely on certain feedback. So if I ask a question and nobody's got a clue what's going on, the problem probably resides with me, unless I go, wait a minute, this was on the first page of the chapter. Has anybody read it? and everybody looks down immediately and hope he doesn't ask me. I hope there don't be any questions or something. So, no, that's fine. I don't believe that my responsibility is to learn. I believe my function is to expose you or to expose students to some of the major themes on a particular topic and to hopefully present it in an attractive enough way that they go, I want to know more about that.
Okay, getting back to the presentations and your tool that you use to engage people, the jokes. What happens when the jokes don't work, when people don't get your joke? Does it happen at all?
Oh, sure, yes. You'd be surprised how often I think something is funny and everybody goes, yeah, not so funny. It's a risk you take. I use humor as a device for engagement. I think that it's really hard to laugh when you're asleep, and it's really hard to fall asleep when you're laughing.
Okay.
And I think being awake is one of the fundamental things that should happen in a classroom. In other words, I think it's easier if the students are awake. Yeah. And I have seen students fall asleep.
Really?
Of course, in my class. Of course.
What do you do then?
Nothing.
Do you let them sleep?
Yeah, as long as they're not snoring or slobbering on the person next to them. You know, they're not disturbing anybody. You know, you want to come here and sleep? Hey, you paid 1,800 euros. If you think paying 1,800 euros is, you know, sleeping is good use of your educational dollar, and again, you're not disturbing anybody, what am I going to say? You know,
yeah.
Wake up and get out? Ah, come on, don't worry about it. It's fine. It's for you.
So you didn't write any jokes?
No,
specifically for that.
I don't write my own jokes.
Oh, you don't?
I have some people that do that for me. Of course, every good comedian knows that.
Do you think that is competition?
No. Do I have a good turn of phrase? Yes, I think I do. How do I do that? I read newspapers.
Really?
I read probably 7 or 8 newspapers a day.
Is that an inspirational key, or?
Well, yeah, because a lot of what's, you know, most jokes write themselves. If you read the political section or the financial section, you just read it and you go, there's a joke. I mean, that's really funny, man. And I never could have thought of that. But, you know, the director of the bank of this or whatever said that. You go, ha, 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 ha. That's really funny. So you just bring that into class and everybody goes, that's really funny. So, I think in a sense that I look to my environment around me and I look to the topic that I'll be looking at today. And again, this is a university of applied sciences. Yeah. So we're looking to apply or to see the link between what happens here and what happens in the outside world. Now, if I can use humor as a device to kind of get that stimulation going and somebody laughs and they go, oh, that was pretty funny. Does he have anything else to say? Oh, now he's going to talk about Porter's 5 forces model. I wonder if there's a joke in there somewhere. Well, maybe after 5 minutes it's not so funny, but they go, well, that's an interesting model. Okay, let me think about that. And so, you know, maybe sometime in the near future they'll say, oh, I've heard about Porter. And did the joke get them there? That's fine. Yeah. Now, I take education very seriously.
One more short question about the presentations and the jokes. Your first presentations at the beginning of your studies, of your practicing teaching, did you use humor? When did it appear in your life?
Yes, actually the first humorous presentation I ever gave was in this organization in 1993.
1993 again.
Absolutely. Back then, technology was a little bit different when it came to presentations. We didn't have smart boards. We had big overhead projectors where people would put acetates in there. Oh. Is that okay? So I was asked by the dean of the department to give, I had just arrived at the school from Bonaire, to give a presentation about internationalization, and I worked on the presentation for 2 weeks. I had about maybe a stack of slides like this, about 15 or 20 slides.
The slides hard to copies.
Yeah, you know, little plastic sheets of paper like that. So I had them all numbered and ordered. Number 1, introduction, and
How much time would it get to make?
Oh, it took me 2 weeks to do it, because this was the first presentation I was going to give to 90 people that didn't know me. Oh. These were going to be all my future colleagues, and they were wondering, wie is the buitenlander, huh? What do I here, huh? Yeah, what is bedoeling, huh? So the dean asked me, okay, you're marked, this is your big chance to show to everybody, this is it. So I get into a big room with 90 colleagues all around the table, like this, a big square, and I'm in the middle, kind of feel like a Christian in the Forum, you know, in Rome or something like that. Release the lions! So what happens like that? There's this overhead projector that's got a 747 engine on it to evaporate the heat, you know, to take the heat away. So I take all of my slides that are numbered in perfect order, and I put it right down next to this jet engine that immediately goes pow! 32 pieces of plastic explode into the air and fall all around me. I have 180 eyeballs, 90 people times 2, it's the new math, okay, are looking at me. What's he gonna do now? Now, life is about choices, as I mentioned before, right? Now, I can go, excuse me for a moment while I take the next 15 minutes to put everything back in order.
Oh.
And of course, 15 minutes will feel like about 6 hours with no underwear on. Okay, so I said, and I had about 3 seconds, and I said, no. So I just picked up everything on the ground, put it on the table, grabbed the first slide, boom, my conclusion. Right! Okay, let's start with the conclusion, right? And I started talking about that, whatever. And I took the next one, and it was slide number 4. Then the next one was slide 15. Then it was slide number 1. Hey, slide number 1. Now you know what the presentation's about. And I just went through it that way because I thought I'm going to look like a jerk if I do anything else. And that really wasn't the point of the presentation. Yeah. The point was for the dean to allow me the opportunity to expose myself, and believe me, I did expose myself, to the group of people. And afterwards, I got some raised eyebrows about, well, he's not that organized, but most of the people recognized what was happening, and they said, hey, good for you. You know, you didn't freeze, you didn't have a blackout or anything like that. You just kind of, yep, chador, let's go, let's move it through here, and let's see what happens. So I've had disastrous presentations, and I've done disastrous things in my teaching career. Nothing that's ever hurt anybody physically, hopefully, but I take these opportunities to learn and to improve and to hopefully perform a little bit better the next time.
It is interesting to find out so many more details about you. We would be closing our interview right now, but not before. I would ask you your opinion or an advice that you could give for the students, because you are aware that sometimes there is a barrier between the student and the teacher. How should they interact? Should the initiative come from the teachers? Should it come from the students? Should the what would be the limits between in which the students could involve or initiate an engagement?
No, I think it's a good point. More and more teachers are coming into contact with more and more students. So, although it is very difficult for me to kind of remember everybody that I come into contact with. But this is the promise I make right now, and to whoever is watching right now. When you and I are talking to each other, I'm in the moment with you. I'm not thinking about something else. So when you come to me and say, Mark, I want to talk about this with you, I'm there with you. Now, you might have to give me a little bit of information, like, hey, remember last time we talked about this, that, and the other thing? It'll bring it back to me, and I'm there. In terms of, generally speaking, information for student, make sure you know the teacher's name. You'd be surprised how often I ask a student, so what's the name of your finance teacher? And they go, Meneer? No, I think it should be something. So that's tip number 1.
Okay.
Tip number 2, do something significant that the teacher will remember you by, that distinguishes you from the other students.
How do you define significant so that people don't do something crazy as coming in a shirt or topless
yeah, anybody, you know, somebody can walk into class naked if they want to, and it won't faze me at all.
No.
I have seen things you people wouldn't believe. Attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion. Sea beams glittering in the darkness at Tannhauser Gate.
Oh.
Moments lost in time like tears in the rain. That's a very famous quotation from a very famous Dutchman. Does anybody know who?
Audience?
That'll be up to YouTube to figure out.
I'm sure people are motivated to do so.
To try and figure out where that comes from. And the hint is a very famous Dutchman said that. So no, do something significant. One of the things that I tell students is, look, if the teacher is asking you to write a report and hand it in week 7, most teachers don't mind if a student says, hey, Mr. Kierans, I've done the first part of my report. I don't want you to read it, but I was wondering if you had 5 minutes to look at it with me, so I kind of know that I'm on the right road here. Okay, so don't correct everything, just kind of look at it. So I go, well, first of all, that's unusual.
Is it?
Well, absolutely. It rarely happens. I don't know why students don't do it more often. Now, you got to be careful. You can't go to your teacher every 5 minutes and say, look at this, look at this, look at this, look at that, or whatever. Do students ever formally introduce themselves to the teacher at the beginning of the class? Hi, my name's Mark Kierans, and I'm a second-year student. I'll be in your class, and, you know, I think we're going to have a good time here. Oh, well. Hello, Mark Kierans. This doesn't happen to me very often. Now, you also have to find devices that work for you and that are genuine when it comes to you. So it's very difficult to say, always do this or always do that. You know, this is going to sound terrible, and maybe I'm breaking the law, but, you know, you want to say to the teacher, look, I'm going to leave a little bit early, or I'm going to leave a little bit late. Oh, put a little cappuccino on the corner of your desk here.
Oh.
I know that's a bribe. No, it's not a bribe.
No.
It's just recognizing another human being. You're asking for a little bit of something, and could I remember that? Could that be useful to you in a couple of years from now when you need something from me that I don't technically have to give you? Oh, you're a nice person. You bought me a cup of coffee right now. I can spend 10 minutes with you. No problem.
So the coffee is the secret, guys.
Well, you know, at least for me. I think the added value in our education is not the textbooks we use. That's important. It's not the didactical form that we use. That's important. It's about the contact that we have amongst each other, whether it's student-student, teacher-teacher, teacher-student, administrator. In other words, you can do your program, you know, on the computer, sitting at home, you know, naked or in your underwear if you feel like it, right?
Yeah.
Presumably, you've decided to attend a university for other reasons, that you in fact do want to come into contact with people and share ideas and exchange experiences and events and all of that. So that's why sometimes I question why students don't come to class, because it's kind of like going to the cinema, buying your ticket, but then not going in to see the movie. I mean, you bought the ticket, right? You paid for it.
Yeah.
But yet you don't show up for it. That doesn't seem like you're getting good value for it.
Yeah.
Now, I get why students sometimes don't want to come to class and whatever, is because we have a 3-hour break between lectures, and like we have nothing to do for 3 hours, right? We have no books we have to read, we've got no notes we've got to take, we've got nothing to do, right? So why would I want to hang around here for 3 hours? I get that. That's no problem.
No.
But could it be that if you look at those 3 hours as another opportunity to connect with somebody, to do something with somebody that you can't do if you're not here? Could that be added value? Could that help relieve some stress in periods, or in week 6, or in week 5, week 7? Could it be?
No.
We'll leave it at the could it be.
Could it be? The last question of the interview.
Yeah.
What is the question that you would never answer on camera? There must be one. You had the questions beforehand, so you should have an answer.
I would never answer a question that I felt would disparage another person. Or that would make or would belittle an individual in some sort of negative connotation. Because I don't find there's much humor in doing something like that. Other than that, no, you can pretty much ask me anything you want, and if I think it's a bit offside, I'll say, what's your point? My safety net may be considerably larger than other people. In other words, I will talk about just about anything, considering some of the conversations I have to listen to around the table with 5 women in my house. Oh my God. I can tell you about menstrual cycles. I think I'm halfway to being a gynecologist by now. I do all of this stuff, and I just have to sort of sit there and, okay, yep. And so I figure if I've had to listen to that stuff, I can listen to just about anything. So.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming here. It was very interesting and very nice to have to discover you as more than just a teacher.
Thank you.
I wish you a great evening, and goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Goodbye.